On June 8, 2005, a man named Alejandro Dominguez Coelho accepted the most dangerous job in Mexico. Police chief of Nuevo Laredo. He lasted 6 hours. Gunmen shot him more than 30 times before his first shift ended. Nobody was ever convicted, and everybody in Nuevo Laredo understood exactly what that message meant, and exactly who was sending it. This is the story of two cartels that spent 7 years trying to kill each other over a single bridge, and then, almost overnight, became allies. In March 2003, Mexican authorities arrested Osiel Cárdenas Guillén, the boss of the Gulf Cartel. Regular viewers of this channel already know what came next for the organization he left behind. A private army called Los Zetas, built from Mexican army deserters, that would eventually turn on the cartel that created it. But Cárdenas' arrest triggered a second war first, one that had nothing to do with Los Zetas at all. It was a war against an outside cartel that smelled weakness the moment Cárdenas was gone. The Sinaloa Cartel, led by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The prize was Nuevo Laredo, a border city that, according to the DEA, moved roughly half of all the cocaine entering the United States during the 2000s. Whoever controlled that bridge controlled a fortune. The Sinaloa Cartel didn't send a message. It sent men. According to Mexican and U.S. officials, Chapo's organization moved roughly 200 armed fighters into Nuevo Laredo, trying to seize the plaza outright while the Gulf Cartel's leadership was in disarray. The Gulf Cartel's response was the same private army it had built years earlier. Los Zetas, still loyal, still working exactly as designed. What followed wasn't a negotiation. It was a war for a single city, fought between the enforcers of two of the largest trafficking organizations in North America. Sinaloa's fighters in Nuevo Laredo needed their own muscle. They built it from the remnants of a local gang called Los Chachos, forming a new enforcement wing to counter Los Zetas directly. They called it Los Negros. The man who came to lead them was Edgar Valdez Villarreal, an American citizen born in Laredo, Texas, the U.S. side of the same border he'd spent his career fighting over. Before any of this, he'd been a standout high school football player. Mexican officials came to know him by a different name, La Barbie, a nickname earned for his fair complexion. Under Valdez, Los Negros used gunmen recruited from street gangs on both sides of the border, members of the Mexican Mafia, MS-13, to fight a war that had nothing to do with any of their original loyalties. By 2005, Nuevo Laredo had become the deadliest city in Mexico's drug war, on pace for what would be its bloodiest year yet. 77 people killed by year's end. Into that came Alejandro Dominguez Coelho, a businessman who agreed to take over as police chief after his predecessor fled the job. He was sworn in on June 8th. Within 6 hours, gunmen believed to be working for Los Zetas shot him more than 30 times as he sat in his vehicle. Nobody was ever convicted for his murder. The message didn't need a trial to land. The city's police chief answered to whoever controlled Nuevo Laredo's streets. And for the moment, that wasn't the Mexican government. Nuevo Laredo tried again. Omar Pimentel took the police chief job after Domínguez's murder. He lasted longer, roughly 8 months. In March 2006, after 3 charred bodies were discovered dumped along a nearby road, Pimentel resigned under pressure. 2 police chiefs, 2 forced departures, one from murder, one from the fear of it. That pattern told its own story about who actually governed the city during the years Sinaloa and the Gulf Cartel fought over it. What followed was one of the ugliest turf wars of Mexico's modern drug conflict. Los Zetas and Los Negros fought with grenades and according to multiple reports from the period, improvised rocket-propelled weapons. They turned residential streets into combat zones. Both sides hung narco banners in public, announcing kills, threatening rivals, occasionally addressing the Mexican government directly. The scale of the DEA's own cocaine estimate for Nuevo Laredo explains why neither side would walk away. This wasn't some symbolic dispute over pride or abstract territory. It was a fight over the single most valuable smuggling corridor either organization had access to. Sinaloa's invasion failed. Despite the men, the money, and Los Negros' own brutality, Los Zetas held Nuevo Laredo for the Gulf Cartel. A temporary, informal division of territory took hold for a while, only to collapse again in 2007. That reignited violence across multiple Mexican states, not just one border city. By most accounts, the formal Sinaloa Gulf Cartel conflict ran from 2004 to 2010. 7 years of a rivalry that started over one bridge and eventually spread far beyond it. The alliances that fought this war didn't stay intact either. In 2008, the Beltrán Leyva brothers broke away from Chapo Guzman and the Sinaloa Cartel entirely, taking much of Los Negros and Barbie himself with them. The enforcers built to fight the Gulf Cartel on Sinaloa's behalf now answered to an entirely different organization. It was the first sign that the loyalties defining this war were never as fixed as the body counts made them look. Then, in January 2010, everything Los Zetas believed about its own alliance came apart. They became convinced that Gulf Cartel leadership was secretly negotiating with Sinaloa, the exact organization Los Zetas had spent 7 years bleeding to keep out of Nuevo Laredo. So Los Zetas broke from the Gulf Cartel entirely. That story and the war it started is covered in full in this channel's episode on Gulf Cartel versus Los Zetas. And the suspicion turned out to be accurate. By February 2010, the Gulf Cartel had formally allied with its former enemy, the Sinaloa Cartel, along with La Familia Michoacana, against Los Zetas and a new organization called the Cartel del Pacífico Sur, founded by Héctor Beltrán Leyva. Fighting between the two alliances broke out almost immediately in Reynosa, Tamaulipas. Mexico's national homicide rate rose more than 28% that year. Think about that. The cartel that once sent 200 fighters to take Nuevo Laredo by force was now fighting alongside the men who'd killed to keep them out. And this time, the alliance held. Despite repeated Zetas incursions, Gulf Cartel forces, now backed by their former enemy, kept control of Reynosa. The war that started as an invasion in 2003 ended with the invader and the defender standing on the same side of the fence. But holding Reynosa didn't mean the Gulf Cartel stayed whole. By 2011, the organization that had just fought off Los Zetas turned on itself, splitting into rival factions that fought each other in the same streets they defended together a year earlier. The enemy outside had been beaten. The one inside never went away. Edgar Valdez Villarreal was captured in August 2010, extradited to the United States in 2015, and sentenced in 2018 to 49 years in federal prison. Years later, multiple outlets reported he was no longer listed in standard federal custody, fueling speculation, never confirmed, that he'd become a cooperating witness. Héctor Beltrán Leyva, whose Cartel del Pacífico Sur fought alongside Los Zetas in that same 2010 war, lasted 4 more years as a fugitive. Mexican authorities captured him at a seafood restaurant in October 2014. He died in custody several years later of a heart attack. The Gulf Cartel never recovered the unity it had before any of this started. By the DEA's own 2025 assessment, it doesn't even operate as a single organization anymore. Its remnants are dominated by factions calling themselves Los Metros and Los Escorpiones, the latest chapter in a fragmentation that began the moment Osiel Cárdenas was arrested in 2003. The Sinaloa Cartel, meanwhile, outlasted nearly everyone in this story. Its next major rival wouldn't be the Gulf Cartel at all. It'd be a cartel out of Jalisco that barely existed yet in 2005. 7 years. 2 police chiefs killed or driven out. Hundreds dead over a single bridge. And in the end, the 2 organizations that fought hardest over Nuevo Laredo didn't defeat each other. They simply found a bigger enemy and switched sides. That's the pattern this channel keeps running into. These wars were never about loyalty, or ideology, or even revenge. They were about who controlled the plaza, and enemies who control the same plaza will work together the moment it's profitable. No matter how many banners went up, or how many chiefs of police never made it through their first shift. If you want the rest of these stories, the cartels, the wars, and the institutions that keep letting them win, subscribe for more videos like this one every week.